Hello everybody, Sammy here, otherwise known as Skogger140, and I am back for another video. I am doing a response video today. Yes, I have been waiting for something like this to come along because doing response videos are fun. They really are a good topical debate to really get the ideas out across one another, across the internet as it is. So, this video is regarding a discussion video that somebody put up recently. Robert, aka the 4935, put up a video regarding likes and dislikes regarding Transformers, but mostly in Generation 1, the series that anyone who's a Transformers fan will already know regarding the series. And he asked regarding the whole likes and dislikes thing, and this is a video that I think really did require a lot of thought regarding this whole topic, because G1 is one of those series of Transformers that everyone has a huge attachment towards. People like it, people dislike it. So I just thought I'd get in front of the camera and give you my whole shtick regarding this whole series. So, likes and dislikes in this series. Well, this particular series of Generation 1. Now, in order to really go into any real deep discussion about it, let's go ahead and I'm gonna just go get a little bit nostalgic for just a quick second, just to really give you a clear understanding where I fit into this whole series. Because Generation 1, it feels kind of weird for me to talk about this series when I was born in the late '80s and lived throughout the '90s. Well, okay. When I was a boy, when I was a lad of about 6 years old, I got into G1, and I mentioned this in the the whole Getting to Know Transformers fan video that Dave did a response to. When I was a boy at the age of 6, I got into Generation 1 at a very, quite an early age. And at around that time, I started watching a lot of Generation 1 when it was shown on television around the mid-90s, on Fox Kids, back when it was called Fox Kids. And it was cut in between certain shows. It was shown at the beginning of, and in the middle of, and at the end of certain shows. And it was shown during the day, of course, as children's shows often do. And when I was not there, when of course I had school, I had it recorded on VHS tape, and I watched it all the way through, in between certain shows. And you know, at first I didn't like it. I honestly thought it was kind of shit, honestly. But then, the more I started watching it, the more I got attached to the series a great deal, and I fell in love with the series till then. And since then, I've been going to... When I got a little bit older, I went to a lot of car boot sales and bought a lot of VHS tapes regarding this series. And I started watching them all the way through until the VCR got really chewed up afterwards. And it wasn't until I came across the movie, the animated, the 86 movie, on VHS, and was completely blown away by the fact that everything in G1 had pretty much changed at that point, because the movie was pretty much essentially a death fest. There's no other way to really describe that. And you know, and since then, my opinion on G1 has kind of really changed a little bit now. Since then, I don't love it nearly as much as I used to, but I still like this series because it's the series in Transformers that started this whole thing off, that got a lot of people really hooked to this franchise. And G1 stands out for being a very kind of a weird entry in the Transformers franchise, being the first entry as it is. And I suppose the best way to really describe G1 from my own personal view is the likes and dislikes whole thing, because that's what this whole video is about. I like it because it really did to start off this whole series and give it really a foundation to really support itself on, and it changed the way I think a lot of cartoons were really being put out back then. And since I was born in 1988, I can't really speak for anybody who lived throughout that period, but I can imagine that when Transformers was around during '84 and onward, that it managed to gain such a huge following enough to have a long lifespan and managed to stand the test of time. And it has done that successfully, because this is why we have Transformers conventions. This is why we have a long-living franchise that has had its high points and its low points, essentially. And and I like it because it started off something really quite. I want to try and say this word loosely, magical, because the series, in a lot of ways, did start off something quite magical for a lot of people, and it was unlike anything that anyone had ever seen. I think Robert really did say it very well. It was like anything that we had ever seen. Cars that turned into giant fighting robots and would essentially beat the shit out of each other. I mean, who doesn't want to see that in some way? But at the same time, you want to have at least a story to back that up, a story that really grabs your attention. And that, I think, is the main reason why I like G1, is because it's such a move out of the way. It's a special series that really manages to it managed to bring in so many people and managed to start this huge obsession with this franchise. And I can't fault it for doing that exactly, because well, like I said, Transformers has been around since the 80s, and it will continue to live on past that. We are now in 2014, and it's going to be the 30th anniversary that that this series has been around for. So it's been around for quite a long time, and because of course we're getting a new show and we're getting a new movie, and you know, it's one of those franchises where you really didn't think that it would survive this long. Well, if you look back on any franchise of the 80s that has survived this long, I mean G.I. Joe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man, any franchise like that has managed to stand on its own 2 feet and really have a foundation for itself. Some have managed to succeed, some have not, sadly. And you know, Transformers is one of those that really has managed to make a name for itself and go through various changes to prevent itself from getting boring. Now that I've mentioned the likes and why I like G1, now onto the dislikes regarding this series. You know, as good as a lot of people have said that G1 is, and it is a good series, it's not perfect, but it's good. This has caused a huge, I guess there's no other word for it, controversial rift in this fandom, as it is, because with G1 and with people going ahead and saying that G1 is the beginning and the be-all and end-all of this franchise, it really is. It's not to all people, thankfully, but to some people it really has prevented other people from moving forward, I think, because using fan terminology, G1 superior. Everything else that came after that inferior, essentially. So, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, the Unicron Trilogy, even though the Unicron Trilogy was kind of crap, Animated and Prime, they're all shit. And even the movies are considered shit. So, they are, with no shadow of a doubt, imperfect pieces of crap compared to the glorious, dated but very silly Generation 1. And you know, I think that's really my biggest complaint with the fandom, really. I think in some way, because the fandom, which in many ways has its good point, it has its good people and its bad people, and you know me, I'm the sort of person who likes to get worked up over a lot of different things. The fandom really, I think, is kind of too fixed regarding this series, honestly, because it prevents them from really discovering newer, better things, I think. And with G1, you know, honestly, as good as the series is, it's not perfect. And you know, even though I shouldn't say this because I wasn't around when it was on, but you know, I will say right now that the cartoon, the Generation 1 cartoon, is probably the most silliest show probably to date, and it has not held up very well over the years. Because if you look at the daunting animation errors and the blatant silliness that surrounds that show, because the one thing that a lot of 80s cartoons had back then was it had a plot of the week. It was that one episode would focus on one thing and carry out that plot, and then next week it would do the same thing again and again and again. So there wouldn't be really any structured arc. It would just be and even I will go ahead and say this. A lot of people have said that Generation 1, the cartoon, is really nothing more than a 19-episode and a movie toy catalogue, because the show really was just out to sell toys. That's really what cartoons back then were meant to do, and even today, I think. So I think that that's only my dislikes regarding the show is that is that G1 as a whole is an incredibly cheesy show, and it's something that a lot of I guess there's no other word for it, G1 purists will never be able to admit, because they think the show is perfect, and they think the show is perfect. It can do no wrong. It's a perfect show that really does not need to be varnished and scrutinized and kept in a glass box. In a time capsule, yeah, just in case anybody in the future really wants to uncover what this show is actually about. But then again, we have things like YouTube and Dailymotion as a time capsule for future generations to really give you an idea of what this show was like back in the day. Regarding the toys, because I mentioned the cartoon, the toys, honestly, the toys are they are what they are. They are essentially relics from years long gone by. And since I have a few Generation 1 toys now, I do like the ideas that they were going for back then, even though the body structure and the design for them is quite limited in regards to articulation. So the designs for them are quite limited. But at the same time, though, they do ignite a sort of special passion between certain fans. And while I'm not too into G1 as much as I used to be, G1, of course, has got its good points and its bad points. Like I said, regarding the show and regarding everyone else's fixed interests regarding this particular show. And going on to another debate regarding this whole thing in G1. You know, as much as everybody doesn't like the movies, and as much as everybody really goes ahead and says, oh, well, the movies are shit. And in many ways, they are shit. And people go ahead and say, oh, Michael Bay raped my childhood. I thought we kind of got past that now. I think now we really have to get past all that whole director raped my childhood because he's doing something new, he's doing something different. Think about this for a second. If the movies hadn't come out, the series would have altogether just stopped, because I think it was thanks to the Unicorn Trilogy that the series was at a breaking point. It was at the point when everyone was really losing interest in this franchise. Even I was as well. Even I was as well losing interest in this series, because the Unicorn Trilogy was nothing more than an imported product that really had lost a lot of people's attention. Also, regarding the whole design aesthetic of G1, I will say one thing regarding G1's design in the series is that it's when you look at any of the box art of any of the G1 toys or any of the animation models from the original show, you got to admit though that some of those designs would not translate very well to a modern interpretation. The movies, I think, have done a fantastic example of at least updating, but also staying at least somewhat true to how the designs are in Transformers. A lot of people go ahead and say they look too alien and all that crap. Well, they're alien robots, so they're supposed to be alien. But there's also another way of which you can do that, in which you can take the silly cardboard aesthetic of the G1 designs and incorporate it in video games like War for Cybertron and Fall for Cybertron, in which you have them have Cybertronian modes. And you know, it works. It works incredibly well, I think. It works because it's a way of taking something that's old, but putting in something that's new. So you can have it both ways. But seriously, regarding the whole G1 thing and everyone saying that it's a good series, and it is a good series, but a perfect series. It's the be-all, end-all to this franchise, and everything else that came after that is complete and utter shit. That's not entirely true, honestly, because you know, I touched this a while ago on the Beast and Bot thing, and I mentioned at the end of the video which series has the better writing, the better character development. I'm just going to go ahead and say it right now. Of any show in Transformers, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, and Animated have some of the best storytelling in the franchise. Not counting Prime, because Prime was nothing more than just a throwback. But those three alone are examples of good storytelling and good character development. G1 never had any of that, though, because G1 had a habit of introducing the plot of the week and getting the character out to really, if that character was shown enough times on screen, then the child would go to the parent and go, "Mummy, Daddy, I want this toy. Buy me this toy now." The more times they kept seeing that character. So there really wasn't any real development in that whole show. There wasn't really any character development, and even when there was character development, it wasn't that well structured out. So you've really got to admit that the show, in regards to its storytelling, wasn't really that cohesive, because the show was, admittedly, it was silly at times. It was an incredibly silly show, but at the same time, though, we like it because it's a fun show that really gives you an idea of what the of what 80s cartoons did back then. But people really go ahead and say that it's the Holy Grail, essentially, that it's the perfect show of any decade of that point. And I really can't speak for anybody who was around during that specific time, but G1 is anything but perfect. It's a good show, don't get me wrong, but the show is anything but perfect. It's a very silly, character-forced show as a way of getting a character out to really buy the latest toy. And as the years went on, you saw a lot of the classical characters just get phased out, and then the new toys would come in. New characters come in as well. So, in a nutshell, my likes with G1 are, it's a good series that really helped start this whole thing off. It started this whole franchise off, and it really managed to survive these long years, and it's done that so well. But the dislikes are, people are really way too close towards this series, and yeah, I'm burning incense again. Bite me. Yeah. I lost train of thought there for a minute. Yeah. G1 is good because it's a good series that helped start this franchise off, but I've got to dislike it for the fact that people really, people are really quite one-dimensional regarding the series and saying that it's a perfect series, and anything else that came after that is shit. And you really got to think about it this way, because we as human beings are afraid to try different new things, because change is scary. But, you know, change is a good thing, though, because change means innovation. Innovation means progress. And with Transformers, it has had its highs and lows over the years. Beast Wars, I'll say, is probably the highest point where things were, where the franchise was trying something really different. But as a whole, though, you really can't go ahead and say that G1 had good storytelling, good character development, good writing. The show, was, in a nutshell, was nothing more than just a silly toy catalogue. But it was a silly toy catalogue that at least had some heart to it. Because the show, even though it was a toy catalogue, and even though it was played with animation errors, it had some great voice acting from people who are, some of them are sadly no longer with us anymore, but at least some are with us today to continue new projects in the animation and video game industry. So really, what can I really say regarding this whole thing? My 2 cents are, G1 is a little bit of a double-edged, it's a double-sided thing. I like it because it started this whole franchise off, and it manages to still do a great job of bringing in, it's managed to do a great job of surviving this long. But at the same time, though, I dislike it for the fact that people still continue to say this franchise is superb, and anything else that came after that was crap. Because, think of it this way, the movies did a wonderful job of bringing in new generations of people. And you got to also see it this way as well, that conventions like BotCon and Auto Assembly have done a fantastic job of bringing in older and newer generations to this franchise. And I think it's done that superb, in a superb way. Because we have things like this in which we can communicate with one another. We can have discussion videos regarding this certain topic. And, you know, it's fun to really engage that sort of thing, I think. So, anyway, my whole 2 cents regarding G1, it's two sides of the same coin, really. I like it because it started this whole franchise off, but I dislike it because it prevents people from moving forward regarding certain things and saying that this is better than anything else that came after that. So, take your pick, honestly, because I think the fandom of Transformers, as good as it is, and it can be a good fandom at times, but oftentimes it stays too fixed on the one thing that got this whole franchise started off. So really, smoke that over, is all I'll say.